Welcome everyone to the second art critique video on my channel. So over the last week and a half-ish, people have been submitting their artwork through the Google form that I provided, and if you'd like to be in the next art critique, there will be a link to the Google form where you can submit your artwork to be critiqued. So I picked 6 artworks to critique, so I'll throw them up on the screen right here. I'm not able to critique all of the artworks that are submitted because some of the artworks I just don't really know how to critique. But thank you to everyone who sent in their artwork. And before we start, I just want to apologize if I pronounce anyone's names wrong. I don't know how to pronounce all of the names, so I'll do my best to pronounce them correctly, but I do apologize if I pronounce them wrong. So this first render here comes from Gia. And so you said you were still somewhat of a beginner, and you said that you made the textures procedurally. And you said that you were wanting some advice on photorealism. So the first thing that I would do to improve this is to add a wisp of steam coming out of the teapot. And then also if you wanted to add some tea in the teacup, then you could also add some steam coming up here to kind of make the tea feel really warm. So how I did this is I found these 2 different images from Pixabay. These are some like wisps of smoke. I couldn't really find any wisps of steam, but smoke looks pretty close. So I just downloaded these. They're free on Pixabay. I'll leave links in the video description if you'd like to download these. I just used this one here. So what I did is I threw this image into Krita and I just did the insert as new layer. And if you're using Photoshop or GIMP or a program like that, then you should be able to do this with those programs as well. I'm pretty sure they would have this feature. Also, if you want to do this in Blender instead of using a 2D program, I'll show you how to do that. But really quick, I'm just going to show you what I did. So I just grabbed this tool, scaled it down, and then what I did is I went up here to the filter, and I went to colors, and then I went color to alpha. And then it brings up this color palette here, and you can choose what color you want to turn transparent. So I want the black to be transparent and the white to be color. So I just dragged this down to black and then hit on OK. And you can see this is what it's doing. So it makes the black all transparent, and then you can just see the steam here. And then I just turned down the opacity of the layer. So you could do that with a 2D program if you wanted to after you rendered it out. Let me also show you how you can do this in Blender. All right, so I just pulled up Blender here. I'm going to press Shift A and I'm going to go over here to image and then click on images as planes. And if you don't see this right here, what you need to do is go edit and then go to preferences. And then on the add-ons here, you can type in image and then add the images as planes add-on. Just turn that on. So let me just press Shift A. Go down to images as planes, and then just locate to where you have the image and then just click on it, and it's going to add the image into Blender. So let me just go into rendered mode so you can see this. Okay, so here is the image, but you can see that right now it's just added it as a plane and it's not transparent. So if you wanted to add this in your actual scene, what you would do is go over to the shading tab here. So what I want to do here is press Shift A, and I'm going to add a mix shader, drop the mix shader right in here, and then Shift A, and I'm going to add a transparent and then drop the transparent right in here. So now we're mixing the mix shader with the transparent. Now we need to tell it where we want to be transparent and where we want to be the image. So what I'm going to do is plug the color from the image into the alpha. And then I just needed to switch these. So the transparent on the top, the principled on the bottom. And now you can see that you can only see the little whiffs of smoke right there. And also you can press Shift A and search for a color ramp. And then just drop the color ramp right in here before it goes into the factor. And you could play around with this too. And that way you'll be able to see the smoke better or see it less. You can see if you want it to be really faint, you could turn it down or turn it up like that. So then how you would add this in, I just added this little teapot model right here. You could just grab this image. Let me just go into the render preview, and you could just rotate this, and you're basically just going to put it in place right there as a flat image. And then if you're rendering it from like this angle, you can see that now it looks like smoke is coming up from the teapot. Sorry if the view is lagging a little bit, it's because my GPU is rendering this entire thing, so the screen recording software is lagging a bit. So that's what you would do to add the steam. All right, so I'm back in Krita here. So I think it would also be nice to add some tea in there. So if you just want to like add a plane and just add a simple material for the tea, I think that would be great. And then also if you want to add a little bit of steam there, because the tea would probably be hot. Now, I also think it would be a good idea to add a subsurf to this mesh, because you can see that right here, it's like really sharp on these edges. Also right here, it's really sharp. So if you add a subdivision surface modifier onto this, that'll smooth out those edges a bit. And then also I think down here on the teacup, it looks like you need to add some loop cuts in here, unless you did this on purpose. But basically you need to tab into edit mode, press Ctrl R, and then you can click to add a loop cut and just kind of drag it down, and that way there's not going to be all that stretching there with the subdivision surface. Now you said you wanted some advice on photorealism, so if you're going for photorealism, I think it's much better to use textures from texture websites because they're textures from the real world, and so they're going to be a lot more realistic when you're going for realism. So this is Wood049 from cc0textures.com. It's a website where you can get free textures. If you want to just go onto some kind of texture website like cc0 textures, CG Bookcase, Texture Haven is another really awesome one, and download a free wood texture. It's going to be way more realistic, and it also has all the maps like the normal map and the roughness map and the color, and it'll just make it look a lot more realistic. So I think adding in a real texture would be helpful. And then also I think just adding more stuff to this image, because I do feel like it's a little bit boring, so I just like added some cookies on a napkin, added like a candle back here. You could add some like silverware. Maybe you could like just model a simple room with maybe some chairs or like a window in the background or something. I think that would really help. Also, adding a depth of field would really help, because then the background here would be a bit blurred and then it would be focused right here. How you add a depth of field in Blender, if you don't know how, is just add a camera, and I'm just going to place the camera right here, looking at the scene, just something like that. And then on the camera settings right here, if you click on the camera, you can see there's depth of field. I'm going to select that and then click on the eyedropper here, and then select on the object that you want to be in focus. So I'm just going to select the teapot, and then let me just add another teapot, just pull it back here so that it's farther away so you can see what the depth of field is doing. So now if I go into rendered mode, I'm going to click back on the camera, you can see that there's this f-stop. If I turn this f-stop down, turn the f-stop value way down, you can see that now the background is like super blurred and this is the only thing in focus because that's what we selected. But if you turn the f-stop up, it's going to be a lot more in focus. So just find something that looks good. So doing that in your scene right here, if you want to like model a background or something and then having this teapot in focus, I think that would also really help to make it more photorealistic. So thank you, Gia, for sending in this artwork. And this next artwork comes from Prashanthapa, and they sent in this animation here. This is from my drone tutorial. So really nice work. I really think this is pretty good. There are a few things, but overall, I think this turned out really good. I really like the details that you added in here. The texture painting, all the little sci-fi detail in here looks really good. And you did send me the Blender file for this, so I will open that up and show you how I think this could be improved. So you can see as I'm looking through this animation, you can see that there are some weird kind of errors here. There's some little glitches, especially right here on this metal piece right here, also kind of on some of the edges and also right there. I'm going to show you in Blender how I figured out how to fix that. Overall, I do like the animation. I think right at the end though, it's kind of a little weird how he kind of hops up and then kind of like shoots out of the scene. So I'd say maybe just reanimate that. If you wanted to improve this, reanimate just that ending part. All right, and here is the Blender file that you sent me. So for the glitches here, you can actually kind of see them in the viewport. That's why it's making that weird look there. So why this is happening, if I press N and open up this panel here, you can see that right here, the clip start is set to 0.01. If I just turn this up by one amount, I find that suddenly it's gone. So if I go into the camera view, you can still see it in the camera. We will fix that in a moment. The view here though, you can't see that anymore. So there's no weird glitches right here. How to fix it in the render though, click on the camera, and then go to the camera settings right here and basically just do the same thing. So right here, the start clip is 0.001. So just turn this up by like one amount. So now it's 0.101 and you can see that now it looks fine. So if I just render this out, it looks all pink and stuff because I don't have the textures, but that's totally fine. You can see that there's no glitches right there. And if I turn this back down to what it was and then render it, you can see that now there's all those glitches right there. So this is before and then this is after. So you can see that, yeah, that really helps just changing that. So that's how you fix that problem. And then it looks like there's just a little bit of problems with the rigging here. So this stuff looks all good down here. I tried moving these all around. They look really good. But right up here, you can see that there seems to be a problem with these ones. So I'm going to show you how to fix these. So I'm just going to select this and this. And then I'm going to press Alt-R and that'll clear the rotation. And you can see now it's just jumped back to whatever its position was. Now what I'm going to do is select this. I'm going to press 1 to go to front view. And it looks like this needs to be rotated. So I'm going to press R and Z, just rotate that over until it's straight. And then I'm going to select this and rotate it down, just kind of rotate it back to where it needs to be. I'm going to double tap R, make it really straight. Okay, just make it as straight as I can. I'm also going to press 3 on the number pad for side view. Go into rendered mode, just double tap R and rotate this around until it looks perfectly straight, or as straight as you can make it. Okay, and then what I need to do is press N to open up this panel here. And then right over here on the item, I'm going to lock these. So I'm going to click and drag down and lock all of these. And I want it to rotate like this, up and down like that. So I'm going to turn off the rotation X. So rotation X right here, but you can see if I rotate this now, it's not rotating correctly. It's not rotating on the X axis right there. So what I need to do with this object selected is press Control A and apply the rotation. And now it's going to work properly. And then this looks really good right here. So yeah, that's what I would do to fix that. And then it seems like the same thing was happening for all of these. So I'll just do it one more time. I'm just going to select both of these, Alt R. I'm going to press 3 for side view. Just rotate this on the Z axis so that it's straight to your view. Then I'll just rotate this up. Let's go to front view, and where is it? Here it is. Go into wireframe. Just going to double tap R, make sure it's really straight. All right, and then lock all of these except the X-axis, and it's acting a little bit weird, so press Control A, apply the rotation, and now it's working properly. So that's how I would improve it. Just do that for the others, and that should fix all the rigging issues. So thank you, Prashanthapa, for sending this artwork in. Okay, hopefully I'm pronouncing this right. This next one comes from Rathash, and they sent in this really cool sci-fi render. I really like this idea. This is really cool, but I feel like it's just too simple and a little bit boring. So what I would do is just add in lots of sci-fi details. So maybe add in like a sci-fi box, maybe add in like some cool lights here. I do like the lights up here. They're very cool. I was thinking maybe like a little security camera, adding some like sci-fi plating or something on the walls, maybe a little terminal like panel thing with some buttons or something, some maybe sci-fi like tubes or something, sci-fi boxes, just different things like that I think would really make this image look cooler, because it's a really cool idea. I really like it, but it is just a little bit boring when you're just looking at it by itself. There's not much detail and not much to look at. And then also, it is pretty low quality. You can see, just zooming in a little bit, I can really see the pixels here. So if you want to render that out like a way bigger aspect ratio in Blender, then that would be a lot better, because yeah, right now it's pretty low quality. But I do really like this idea, so maybe if you just want to like model a bunch of different sci-fi little details, add in some different lights, different things like that, and add that in, I think this render would be really cool. So thank you for sending this in. And this next one comes from Shalaman. So I really like this one. I like how there's a lot of different stuff going on, and it's very interesting to look at. To improve this render, the first thing that I would do is use an HDRI. I don't know if you were going for maybe a sunset scene or something like that. So maybe if you were going for a sunset kind of scene, you could use a different HDRI. I just grabbed this image from hdrihaven.com. Really, you could use any HDRI that you wanted. I can see that it looks like there's like a sun here, so maybe it's like behind us and the sun is kind of setting. Maybe that was like a reflection there. But right now, I just think this looks really kind of dark and red, and this isn't really realistic. The real sky never really looks like this. And also, if you add an HDRI, you're going to get a lot more realistic lighting. So that's the first thing that I would do. Also, it looks like it's pretty empty here in the buildings. If I look in here, I can see all the way back to the other building, and I can see the windows back there. It looks pretty empty in here. And also, if I just turn this off, I can see that there's no floors like in the windows, and with how big this is, how big a person would be, this would probably be each like story to the building. So I would just add some stuff in here. I would also add like just model some floors for the different levels, and then maybe add like some different like work desks or something, like some computers here or chairs or something, whatever you want to add. And also do that in here, because I can just see it kind of looks like the building is pretty empty. So just add some stuff in there, and I think that would look a lot better. I do really like the modeling of this. I really like how there's all that detail there and the little texture and grunge that you added onto this. Yeah, and the wheels, I really like the wheels. They look really good. But inside here, it looks like it's a bit empty. There's no seat or person driving it. So if you wanted to model like a simple seat or a little steering wheel, maybe even model just a basic person in there, I think that would look a lot better, because I can just see like right through the front of the truck. And then this actually took me a little while to notice. At first, I didn't think that you had added in sidewalks, but I did notice right here that you did add in some sidewalks here and here, but they were really hard to see because they were so dark, so I actually didn't notice them for a while. So I would say make the sidewalks a lot brighter, like maybe add some sort of concrete material and add that on there. And that way you'll be able to see the sidewalks a lot better. And maybe if you want to add like some different signs, or maybe like a mailbox or a trash can, or just a few things around the scene to make it a little bit more interesting. Also, I think maybe adding some different cars would be cool, because these are all, I think, the same exact truck. And I feel like it's not super realistic that there'd be this many garbage trucks all in the same area. So maybe just take away a few of these trucks and just add maybe a couple normal cars. That might help a lot. And then the last thing to improve this render is it looks like it kind of just ends here, like the end of the world. So because the scene kind of ends here and you can kind of see that kind of drop off, it kind of breaks the image and makes it feel like it's just kind of sitting there on a plane. So maybe adding like some trees in the background, or maybe just adding another building to cover that up. It almost looks like this is just on a plane, and then it just kind of ends and falls off just like that. Like, I don't know where this truck would be driving if it's just going to drive right off the side of the world. So maybe just doing something like that. Maybe just duplicate one of these buildings and add it right back there. Thank you, Shalaman, for sending this artwork. It's really cool, and I think if you just did those few things, then this image would be really nice. Alright, and this next render comes from Stan. So again, a really nice render. I really like this one. I really like how there's the different expressions here. It's really fun to look at, and I like kind of the composition where things are. It's really cool. And you said that you used my pumpkin tutorial, so that's really cool. I do have a few things that I would improve on this. So one thing that I would do is improve the lighting a little bit. So what I would do is in Blender's compositor add a glare and kind of just make a fog glow so that the moon is glowing right there. And I did see that you added some blue light right here, kind of like a rim light. And I think that is really good, like right there and right there. But I think just making it a little bit brighter and more of maybe a whiter color so it looks like the moonlight is just shining on the side of those. Also, I think adding just a little bit of a rim light onto the clouds would really help, because if the moon is really clear and bright, it actually will lighten up some clouds that are nearby. So maybe just doing that. And then a few other things here. I think that adding in another cloud right here would be pretty cool. And then also I think extending this fence here. It's a really cool fence. I really like it. I think extending it all the way over would be pretty cool. Let me just remove this layer. You can see here this ground plane. It looks pretty boring. It kind of just looks like a plain like white material, and then it's kind of looking blue because of the light here, but it's pretty simple and it doesn't really fit with the other stuff that's pretty organic here. So what I would do is add dirt and grass. So maybe add like a dirt texture on here, maybe add some like pebbles or something, or some rocks, and then add just a little bit of grass, some little patches of grass right around here. And then the last thing that I would do to this render is to add sunbeams in Blender's compositor. So what I did is I just added your image here into Blender as a image. And then I added this alpha over here, and I added this sunbeams. So if I can just Control Shift and click on it, so you can see what it's doing. If I change, let me just make this a little bit bigger. If I change this X and Y value, you can see there's this little X right here, and that X is going to move around. And so what I did is I moved it right up here to the moon, and then the ray length, you can make this however long you want it to be. I just kind of kept it in the middle here. And then I added an alpha over node, and I used the sunbeams as the factor, and then this image here, the bottom one, I just made that a slightly blue-white color, and then your render, I just put that in there as the image, and you can see what it's doing. So if you like this look, you could definitely add it in. It is a little bit too strong right now because it's kind of making the light areas of the pumpkin kind of coming out like that. Maybe what you could do is like make a mask and then tell the sunbeams to only be showing right here where the moon is, but I definitely think that adding this does add something to the image. So that's just an idea. If you want to improve this, I think that could definitely help. But I really like this one, so thank you, Stan, for sending in this image. And the last artwork that I'm going to be critiquing in this video is this really awesome photorealistic scene here. And this one is from Sushant. So very nice. Thank you for sending this in. This is super realistic. I really like it. And I don't know for sure, but it looks like you might have done Blender Guru's curtain tutorial. I did that as well. It's a really cool tutorial. And I really like how you added all the little details in here, like this little stuff right here. You added in the different pictures here, the different things here on the cabinet, and the little plants right here. And yeah, these are really nice furniture. I like the different plants that you added. And this basket here, it has a lot of detail in there, which is really cool. There are a few things that I think could be improved, but overall this is really good and I think it's pretty photorealistic. So the first thing is to just make sure you're using Filmic Blender. Filmic Blender should be turned on default, but you can see here that the light coming in here is super white. It's very glaring, and then it kind of looks glitchy here on the edges, and it's so white that you can't see the texture at all. It's just super bright. So right over here on these render settings, if you go down to the color management, this should be set to Filmic on default, and then the look here, I like to use high contrast, and that should help to make that light a little less blown out. But maybe you did use Filmic Blender, so I just wanted to make sure you were using Filmic Blender. Maybe you could just make the brightness of the light a little bit less bright because it feels really blown out right here. And then also something that would really help is to add more sampling to this render, because you can see right here that it was pretty grainy and it looks like you added in a denoise, and the denoise does help, but it's still kind of blotchy right here. All around here it's pretty blotchy. Right in here it kind of loses a lot of the texture data. I know that sampling does increase the render times, so you may not want to do that, but if you're able to, I think that turning up the sampling would really help to make this look nicer. And then I'm not quite sure what these little things are. They look like just like some cubes that are kind of stuck on the ceiling. You probably modeled them intentionally. I just don't really know what they are, or maybe it's just me. Maybe I just don't know what they are. Or you could just take them out, whatever you want to do. And then the wood texture, I think it's mapped a little bit too small. So if you wanted to UV unwrap that and just scale it up a little bit, I feel like it's just way too small. If I just look in here, if I was sitting on this chair here, like the different pieces of wood would be pretty thin. And I think that wood flooring is usually a bit thicker, the different pieces of wood. But right now it just feels really, really tiny. So I would say just scale that up a bit. And then also the last thing here is I kind of feel like the house is almost floating because it looks like there's sort of like a mountain range right here. It looks really far away because it's blurred and there's not really any ground here. Maybe the house is just on a hill or something, but to me, I feel like the house is kind of almost floating up in the atmosphere. You're kind of high up. So I would say maybe just add a ground plane here, maybe add some grass or some dirt or something, maybe add some trees or something just like that. You could even add a image and just put it in the background there, but just something. It kind of just feels like the house is kind of floating. It doesn't feel like it's really placed on the ground. So I just think adding a little bit more in the back here would definitely help. But overall, this is really nice and it's really photorealistic. So thank you so much for sending in this artwork. So that's going to be it for this art critique video. Thank you to everyone who sent in their artwork. And if you'd like to be in the next art critique video, I'm thinking about doing art critique videos maybe a couple times a month or something like that. So I'll leave a link to the Google form in the description so you can submit your artwork if you'd like to. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video.